Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of League Chat with the Stat. Thank you so much for joining me on another cracker week this week. Now, guys, as you know, I'm going through every single club from 16th to 1st. Now, just so you're aware, we're going to start off with the Canterbury Banks and Bulldogs. Thank you so much for tuning in. I've been appreciating your support over this off-season. I hope the off-season has been too bearing for you guys, and hopefully that you can find some other sports to tune in while we get through this off-season in the NRL before we kickstart things back around, in 2022. Well, guys, I'm starting off the 2021 season reviews with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, my favourite club, the club I've supported my whole life, who have been an absolute basket case for the last 4 to 5 years. But I want to dig in. I want to get into the nitty-gritties. I want to discuss every player. I want to discuss their stats. I want to discuss how we're going in our season, how we're looking for 2022. There's a lot we're going to get through, so I'm really excited to be able to do this for you guys, and I hope you do appreciate the content. Drop a like, a comment, even a dislike if you don't rate it. Just give us feedback on how we can improve it. But look, really appreciative of you guys joining me once again to be part of another episode of League Chat with the Stat and to go through a season review of the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, who in the 2021 season won only 3 games, which is extremely pathetic beyond any measure. We won 3 games. We lost 21. And it's a very, very poor season. No matter how you look at it, regardless of how inexperienced our side is, any professional team should not be losing that many games and winning that many games. The winning amount of only winning 3 games is not a very, very good sign for a club. But yes, while the club has struggled in many areas, the club has gone through a lot of dramas over the last 4 to 5 years. We just come through our salary cap issues, which has led us to be able to buy a lot of better players next year. But if you look at the season that we've had, we only won 3 games. The first win came in round 7 against the Sharks, where we beat them 18 points to 12. The second win came against the Dragons on Queen's birthday, 28 points to 6. And then the last round of the season, we beat the Tigers 38-0, which was probably our best performance all year. When you look at the stats behind it, or when you look at seeing the games that we won, it took 7 weeks for us to win our first game. Then it took another 7 weeks for us to win our second game. And then it took 10 weeks, not including the bye, but it took 10 weeks to then finally get our third win of the season. Teams had their third win within the first 5 rounds. But just how poor our squad was this year was extremely embarrassing. Now, we finished on 340 points scored. And that's nowhere near good enough. Our attack has been a shambles all year, and we only scored 340 points. We then conceded 710 points. Which, surprisingly, and as I was going through this in-depth study, is actually not the worst in terms of this year. It's very bad. Don't get me wrong. We're not going to sugarcoat that. But when you look at that and you see we conceded 710 points, you will see in the coming weeks just the teams that somehow conceded more. Which left the team with a points differential of minus 370. So obviously there was an issue with our attack. We had no proper structures in our attack, a lot of changes in the spine, and then we had no solid defensive structures. So we flopped in both areas, and we deserved to come outright last. It's a season to forget. Like I said, we won 3 games and we lost 21. Now the side in itself, because of how stuffed up the salary cap was and us paying players all over the shop, yes, it wasn't a first-grade standard side. We can acknowledge that. There are a lot of players who, if I was the coach and I could not pick those players, I wouldn't pick those players. Absolutely. No problem. However, these are the cards that we dealt with this year. And in the last year of this shocking rebuild that we've gone through the last few years. But at the same time, these guys are professional athletes. And so some of these games that they came and tried to make an impact on, some of these players tried to play out of their skin. But as a team, we were horrendous on more than one occasion. And let me explain to you just in some of the reasons. In round 1, against the Knights, we were in that game. We were up 16-12 before second half, we just let go. We then go on, so we lose our first game. Then against the Panthers, then the Broncos, then the Rabbitohs, we don't score a single point. 3 weeks. So then we concede 28 points against the Panthers. We concede 24 against the Broncos, and we concede 38 against the Rabbitohs. That's 90 points in 3 games. On top of the 32 we had already conceded. So by 4 rounds in, we were minus 106. 4 rounds in. And it didn't get easier. We got 52 put on us by Storm, and then we finally get a win, but it was only by 6 points. It wasn't by much. But that was just our season. Anytime we'd get some sort of hope, we'd just get smashed. Then we go on and to lose 66-0 to the Sea Eagles. Another garbage performance. You know, we put 38 points, which is the highest amount of points we put on this year. We saved it for the last round against the Tigers, who were insanely hopeless. But the point I'm trying to make here is that there were a lot of games where we were just so poor, it wasn't even first grade standard. And those are the games I'm talking about. Regardless of how good those other teams might be, to not score a single point in 4 games of the 25 is very poor. Sorry, the 24 games. It's extremely poor. Extremely, extremely poor. Regardless of the players on the side, that's not what you're expecting from a professional organisation. You can't be expecting results like that. Now, the attack, hopeless. Same how it's been the last few years. You know, Flanagan was the man to come in to kind of change things up with a bit of a better forward pack coming up behind him. But he struggled a lot this year, which we're going to get into a little bit later. We shuffled around with our spinal positions a lot. And like I've always said, if you're going to keep mucking around with who your fullback is, who your 6 and 7 and 9 are, you're going to struggle a lot. There's no rhythm. There's no consistency. There's no improvement in that side. Look, the only thing that could possibly be good from it was because we blooded a lot of kids, which is fair enough, which I'll get into also in a moment. But our attack was shocking. It was just clunky. How we were lucky to score some of the points we scored, I don't know. But just how poor we were all year in every area of attack and even in defense. The amount of times we'd be in some games, and this is the most disappointing part for me. As I look at this year that we've had, yes, a lot of games we deserve to lose. There's not even a shadow of doubt in my mind that we deserve to lose majority of these games. But let's look at round 6, for example. Cowboys beat us 30 points to 18. We were up that game. We were in it to the last 15, 20 minutes. You look at the game against the Raiders, Magic Round. We lost to that side. We were up. We lost to them with 11 men. They scored 2 tries on us with 11 players. The next week after that against the Titans, dropped the ball again. We were leading. We played some good football. Towards the end of that game, we faded out. The Roosters as well. The Rabbitohs were up as well, and they came back. The Sharks, we played some good football. So there were games that actually could have been won. Yet, we just faded out. At the exact same point in every game, we just kept fading out. Then we showed what we could do. Round 24 against the Sea Eagles, we lost 36 points to 18, which we thought was going to be another 66-0 shellacking, if not more. But they just picked up in certain areas. They did things a little bit right to the sense where Sea Eagles were on the back foot. We defended a lot harder. We played a lot better. But these are games we should be winning. We shouldn't have lost to the Tigers 28-16. Another game we could have won. Warriors 24-10, we could have won that game. 22-16 the Knights, we could have won that game. So the thing that disappoints me the most is that there was a lot of missed opportunities for games that we actually could have won because we were in a position to win them and we didn't. We just faded out. We made the fewest run meters in the whole comp and we conceded the most meters. So looking at this in a year where we've come 16th, you can see that there aren't many strengths to the side. It was an extremely disappointing season, and a lot of it was, there isn't many positives to take out, there are actually more negatives, but the Bulldogs seem to finish with a completion rate the highest in the comp of 79.9%. Well, that's because we spent a lot of our time trying to get out of our own line and having to use every single tackle we could just to get out of our own line. Because the problem that we had was we'd make 40 meters and then concede 50, 60. We'd make 20, 30, 40 meters and we'd concede the exact amount, double if not more. Which a lot of the times led to tries. We defended so much because in attack we were just clunky. We couldn't get the ball out of our own area. So a strength to look at in the sense that we got the highest completion rate in the comp. With a better attacking structure and a lot better defense, it could have meant something. But unfortunately, this year it means absolutely nothing. They just showed, like I said, there was little effort areas where they showed they could play some good football and they just couldn't consistently bring that out week in, week out. The weaknesses. Attack. We scored the least amount of points and leaked a lot across all quarters of the game. There wasn't a point where we were very good, and there wasn't a point where we were very bad. We were very bad across all 80 minutes. We conceded so many points in the first, any time between the first 10 minutes. I felt like every time I watched the Bulldogs game, we'd have to concede the first try. We concede the first try, and then that'd be it. Then we just try to fight back and then get a call, and then we get a lucky try, and then they'll go and take out the rest. Because we tried to put in so much effort and tried to work so hard just to get the one try that when we got the one try, we couldn't defend it again. We just dropped our guard. We dropped our game plan. Week in and week out, week in and week out. We couldn't make yardage. Like I was mentioning earlier, another big weakness is that because we faded out so much in so many important times, especially in the last 20 minutes, we conceded the most tries. We faded out so many times. We couldn't keep it together. And then also, like I've said, you can't make 30, 40 meters set coming off your own line and then kicking it down to the other player on the floor, and then they're matching up 20, 25 meters, and then their whole team getting through to your line, and then the exact same thing until they break you and score a try, and then it's all over. It's very hard to change the momentum of the game. But those are the biggest weaknesses from the Dogs. In attack, defense, honestly, in almost every area, there was a weakness. We look at the opportunities that the Bulldogs had. Looking at the opportunities, we can see here that some young kids got a run. So we exhausted 35 players in our 2021 season. That came through a lot of injuries and a lot of suspensions. And a lot of them were repeat offenders, which I'm going to get into as well. It was good to see that, some of these kids got to showcase their talents. We got to see the debut of Brad Dietz, showed what he could do at dummy half. Wasn't phenomenal, but he showed glimpses of potential of what he could do. We then later saw Bailey Biondo-Odo. Then we got to see Jackson Topine, who I thought was fantastic anytime he laced the boots and played first grade. I thought it was very good for us. The problem I had with that is that he'd never got enough game time. Weeks he'd play really well, we would then never see him for another couple of weeks. Brad Dietz, Jackson Topine, Bailey Biondo-Odo, kids like that who'd come in and really bring some emphasis off the bench, just bring a little spark, bring a little something, bring a little different to just give us something creative. Because we struggled with it the whole time. And look, these are the kids that are going to start to get a lot of opportunities next year. But we had a couple of players as well move around a lot of positions. We had Nick Meany move a little bit. We had Cory Allen move a lot. We had Nick Kotrik move a lot as well. And so there were some good opportunities to see where our side was at best. In the halves, who's good for us in the halves? Is Flanagan should be the 7, or would Avrila be 6? Or would Flanagan go 6 and Avrila go 7? Or will Lachlan Lewis come in or Brendan Waken come in? Even Bailey Biondo-Odo got a crack at 6 in his normal position. So there was a lot of opportunities to see because obviously we weren't playing for this year. We're obviously trying to build into next year. And it's a little hard to build into next year with the way and the players that we've got without trying to chuck them in to different places to see where they could perform. The most threatening were the 3 kids I just mentioned. They were the most threatening for us. Luke Thompson had his moments as well. Jack Hetherington had his very, very few moments. But not much to really look at, and for a side like the Storm or Panthers or Rabbitohs, look at them oh, they're a team to watch. Nothing crazy exciting. And it shows. When you look at the LA of our squad, there isn't much first grade experience, and the people that have experience are past their best. But look, I've sat down and I've looked at every player that's played this year, that's donned the first grade jersey for the Canterbury Bulldogs, and I've chucked them in a list of good, bad, and average. I'll start off with the backs. Aaron Schopp. He made his debut this year. He played 14 games and averaged 140 meters per game. In that time, he made a total of 33 tackle busts, along with 3 tries and a line break. I know that he's going to miss a bit of it next year, but my review of him, he was good this year. I thought his first year, I thought it was very solid. 19-year-old kid, extended his time with the club for another couple of years. I'm expecting him to hopefully feature somewhere in our backline next year. I know he's had shoulder surgery, so he'll be out maybe the first month or so. But he was solid for us. Again, the reason his stats were so low because we didn't have much attack. So we couldn't create as many points. Again, we only scored, like I mentioned earlier, 340 points. So there wasn't anything that he could do mostly himself, but the times that he got to don the jersey, he played fantastic. Aaron Schopp, he made his debut in round 6. Sorry, in round 11. He was a reserve in round 6. He made his debut in round 11. And he missed one game, I believe it was due to suspension. The club imposed on him due to going out and breaking a team curfew. And then the rest, he was featured in every game. And he was always doing his best. He was always trying to get involved. And anytime he got the ball, tried to make the most of it. 33 tackle busts throughout the whole year. Some games we get as low as 1. Some games as high as 6. Always trying to do his best and try to be threatening with the ball. And I think he was good this year. I was very happy with Aaron Schopp in how he played and what he did for the Bulldogs in the sense of just getting more game time under his belt. Getting that experience would have been very good for him and make him a better player next year. Bailey Biondi-Odo. So he also made his debut this year. He played majority of the year off the bench. So he came off as a little pocket rocker. He's known as a typical 5'8", but he came out as like a bit of a pocket rocker, coming off the bench, just trying to inject himself really where he could. I thought it was pretty impressive, and I thought he came in and just brought a burst of energy. And he got a chance to start at halfback as well. So when you look at Bailey Biondi-Odo and just the time he played, so have a look at the amount of games he played this year. He played 9 games in his debut year, which isn't too terrible. He had 2 opportunities to play at 5'8", and the rest of the time he was on the bench. But he would always come on and just try to inject himself in a different way, try to bring a different element to boost our side. He finished the year with 2 tries, 2 line breaks, a line break assist, and offload, and he made a total of 201 tackles at 92.2% tackle efficiency. Very solid. I've got to give it to him. He's playing in the middle, but he'll be a lot better for the experience he got this year, and in my review, gets a thumbs up for me. I thought it was good. So, Schopp and Biondi-Odo, very good so far. I liked what I've seen from him, and I've loved that we've locked them up for a couple of years each, which is very exciting. Which brings me on to my next player, Brendan Wacom. Now, we know he's a Fiji international. We know the type of player that he can be and what he can bring to a side. He only played 8 games this year, but he wasn't seen as a regular in the side. He wasn't a first choice half. With Flanagan coming into the side, Flanagan was the man that was looked at as the main 7 for us and really going into the future for the next however long we needed to. So he only played 8 games this year, and he wasn't seen as a regular like I mentioned. The constant changing in the halves never helped his case either because he couldn't find himself into a rhythm. And now I'll mention this as a whole. New South Wales Cup shutting down and Queensland Cup pausing for a little bit did not do any benefit to these fringe players. Did no benefit because they can't improve on their game. And there's one particular player who I'll talk to a little bit later in what I mean by that. But in the 8 games he played, he had 5 try assists and 5 offloads. His kicking game wasn't as solid. And like I said, without him having New South Wales Cup, it was very hard for him to work on his game and then come back into the side and then focus on the areas that he was improving on in training. Very hard. Moving to a bubble, obviously had those pressures as well. But look, in terms of the amount of games he played 10 games last year and he played 8 games this year. Taking a look at both stats from the way he was last year and this year, in attack and defense, he improved. He played a lot better. He actually tried to contribute more to the team. He was a lot more dynamic in attack, and he was a lot more consistent in defense. And again, in a very, very, very poor year, he gets a thumbs up for me. I didn't think he did a terrible job, and he's definitely someone that I definitely rate, and someone who I thought actually played a very good part in helping the Bulldogs out this year. Just give me a moment. We move over to the next player, Christian Croydon. Now, he didn't get any game time. He did his ACL in preseason training and then never ended up getting a run, and he has been let go and won't be part of the club in 2022. So I'll move on to the next player, Cory Allen. There was a lot of decent expectations for Cory Allen. He had just come back from playing with the Rabbitohs and playing some phenomenal football at fullback, and we thought, by him moving away from the Rabbitohs, he'll come to the Bulldogs with that experience that he got behind under Wayne Bennett and bring a different element to attack. And you got to remember as well, he played for Queensland. So we pick up a guy who gets released early from the Rabbitohs, who at the time was a regular in the Origin side and played some wonderful football for Queensland and for Rabbitohs, that we thought he's going to inject himself and be very good for what he can bring to the club and take what he's learnt from Bennett and apply it to his own game. But he struggled again, like anyone else would, he's still very young, but he struggled in a very weak and inexperienced side. He got thrown between fullback, he got thrown between the wings, he got thrown between the centers. There wasn't a lot of consistency for him to really knuckle down on a spot and play some good football, which was tough to see from Cory Allen. We signed him in as a fullback, expecting him to play fullback all year with Meany on the wing. It just never eventuated that way. So having a look here at the amount of games he played. So he played 4 games at fullback. So he started the year at fullback, played the first 3 games there. Didn't get to play fullback again until round 20. He made an appearance on the wing in round 4, then through round 16 to 19, and through rounds 21 to 25. And then there was a big chunk of the games where he got from 5 to 9 where he played centre. Now, he obviously did get injured in that win against the Sharks. Sorry, in that loss against the Dragons, I believe it was, we lost to, and he copped a very serious injury. And he was out for about a good 7-8 weeks. So that obviously didn't help his game either, which was unlucky really from him. So when you look at the way he played at the Rabbitohs, he played 10 games, won 5, lost 5. He scored 5 tries when he was playing at the Rabbitohs. He had 6 try assists, 7 line breaks. It was a lot more threatening and a lot more damaging. Didn't miss that many tackles. He averaged a high 150 meters in his running. But when he came to the Bulldogs, it all kind of just dropped. Of the 18 games he played, he won 2 and lost 16 of them. He scored 3 tries. He had 3 try assists and 4 line breaks, so down in his attacking stats. And he missed a whopping 39 tackles this year compared to the previous year's 14. So they're in the good, bad, and average category. I'll put Cory Allen in the not good category. I'll put him in the bad category. Unfortunately, didn't have a great season. In the 18 appearances he made, though, he scored 3 tries, had 3 try assists, 4 line breaks, and 24 tackle breaks. But I'm sure that with another big preseason coming up, with a lot more experienced players around him, it'll make him a better player for it. And so, in my review, he wasn't good this year. And I'm expecting a big improvement from him in 2022. Fala Kikumanu. Now, he was one of our juniors that he came into the squad. He was a player who only had very limited game time. He didn't get an incredible amount of games under his belt this year. From what I understand, he only made his debut this year and played 4 games. And the 4 games that he did play, he made 8 tackle breaks. He made his debut in the game where we lost 66-0. Again, when those 5 players were suspended, he came in and tried to do a job, but the Seagulls obviously cracker that day. Didn't have much of an impact, and we've also didn't continue his contract until next year. In my books, he didn't have a good impression when he played first grade this year. Very hard to City and very easy for me to say he was good, not good. But unfortunately, with the limited opportunities he had, he didn't really make the most of it, which is very, very unfortunate for him. So I'll put him in the bad category, Fala Kikumanu. Jake Averillo. Now, came into the year having a full preseason at number 6. He was inclined to be playing at 6 with Kyle Flanagan at 7, but he had a very mixed bag. He didn't have the greatest performances, but he didn't have the worst performances. Again, with so many changes in the halves, he was the only one to really kind of hold his spot there. So in my look, in the stats he had, because I know that towards the back end of last year, you got to see some of the plays he did, and he looked threatening at 5'8", and he looked like he was ready to play 5'8". So a big preseason had him pretty keen. But again, with so many changes in the squad, it just didn't seem to go that way. So he played a lot more games than he did in his debut year. So last year he played 13 games. This year he played 21. Won the same amount of games, which is surprising. He scored 7 tries this year, which was up from the 3 he scored last year, and kicked 27 goals. So a total of 82 points he scored this year. Now, he converted at about 79.4%. He had 6 try assists and 8 line breaks in his year, but he missed 37 tackles with a tackling efficiency of 90.51%. He averages about 60 running meters per game, which isn't too terrible for a half. But again, he just really struggled to put on consistent performances and to really lead from the front. He had some cracky individual moments where he really tore the game apart. You looked at the game against the Dragons on Queen's birthday where he scored those 2 tries and he looked so involved and he looked like he had the most fun in that time that he was playing in that game. The Dragons were very poor, don't get me wrong, but in the game of rugby league, sometimes in a struggling club like the Bulldogs, the win's a win, but he did a lot for his confidence. Look, he'll be definitely competing for a starting half spot next year alongside Matt Burton. I don't think he should be a number 7. I think he should be in the centres or coming off the bench, personally. But that's something we'll get into our 2022 season preview. But in the year that he had, in the mixed bag that the Bulldogs had in a very poor showing, I thought he was okay. And my review of him was he was good. In a very poor team, he played well, and he actually impressed me with some of the things he could do this year. So I'm sure that with a lot of classy players around him next year, he'll be a lot better for the experience, and it'll be a lot more beneficial for him in the long run. Jaden Ochembaugh, he missed out most of the year with an ACL injury. And he had a lot of dramas off field as well that he had to clean up, which we're not really going to get into. But he came back this year. He made 7 appearances. In that time, he played the last 5 or 6 weeks, really tried to make the most of that opportunity. In that time, he scored 5 tries. He made 4 line breaks and 15 tackle breaks. But the thing that I didn't like about him is that he made so many errors. So many errors. He's such a tall winger. He's giant. He can be something, but he's very weak. I found him to be a very weak player. Maybe it was just due to the stress of coming back from that ACL injury. But from rounds 22 to 23, 24 and 25, he scored a try every week. And while that'd be good and all, he scored that freakish try against the Knights in round 23 in the Gold Coast. But he just couldn't hold on to the ball. And for the life of me, I would sit there and I'd watch him with all the training that he's had and all the time he's gotten to recover from his knee injury, and he was just so poor. There were times where I watched him, I thought, this player is big for nothing. He could be so much more powerful with his size and his strength, and he could, be a massive winger. He could be like what Corey Oates in his prime and in his phenomenal years under Bennett was for the Broncos. He could have been like that for us. But it was very poor. Didn't have a great year. I didn't rate him this year. I didn't think he was good. I thought it was bad. And I don't think he'll get a spot next year with the amount of caliber and the amount of players that are coming into our side. I just thought that with the way he carried himself and the way he played, I just didn't see him being as influential as he can really be, which was disappointing to see from Jaden Ochembaugh. When we look at his stats from last year and the amount of games he played, he only did play 3 games. So obviously he's played more games this year after suffering that ACL injury. He obviously played a lot more games this year, and he obviously got more game time under his belt, which was good. But I just didn't see anything very good from him that really stood out to me. So he's got another contract with the Bulldogs for another couple of years, but I don't see him getting a starting spot next year. Kyle Flanagan. So he was expected to come in and run the ship for the Bulldogs. He was the next number 7, touted as the next number 7 for the next 10 years. He was expected to do big things there at the club. And having come from 2 quality sides in the Croydon Sharks and the Sydney Roosters and being behind such dominant forwards and playing alongside some crafty backs, that we expected to see some big things from Kyle Flanagan this year. They had a lot of pressure put on him. It was a chance for him to reignite his career after being let go by the Roosters. And at the time, I kind of questioned why the Roosters let him go until he started playing for us this year, and it started to make a lot of sense. Let me just put this out there. Any time that the Melbourne Storm or the Sydney Roosters release players, there is a reason for that. And I have to stress that because, unfortunately, it was just the case for Kyle Flanagan this year. Because of how inexperienced our squad was, he couldn't dominate and play the normal game we could see him play the way he was playing at the Sharks and he was playing at the Roosters. He got dropped on 3 or 4 occasions this year, which didn't help his confidence whatsoever. And this was the main player I was talking about. The whole point of New South Wales Cup is for you to go, work on your game. Once you've excelled at what you needed to train on, you bring it into first grade and you change the things around for your side. But because of another COVID-interrupted year, he got dropped and there was just go to the training field and nothing else. There was no way for him to go get more game time, get more experience under his belt, let him work on a few things he needed to work on. He would just get dropped and then brought back in. Dropped, brought back in. And that affected his confidence because then he'd go out and the Bulldogs fans would start rubbishing this Kyle Flanagan kid, but he's not getting the experience that he needs to get. He's not getting the training and the proper preparation he can get from New South Wales Cup because there was a hold on the comp this year for the second year running. So that didn't help his case either. He made 13 appearances for the club in his first year at the Bulldogs. In that time, he had 4 try assists, 4 line breaks, and 4 offloads. He forced 5 dropouts, and he tackled at 92.2% in his efficiency. So, comparing how he was last year, obviously in the quality of the side that he was in, he was a lot better. It was by far so much better. When you're playing in a side like the Roosters and the quality they had with so many of their players in their starting side, and he was just so much better. He played 20 games last year compared to this year's 13. You know, he won a lot more games. He only won one game this year when he played. So to go from a winning culture in the Roosters and then coming to the Bulldogs and not having that culture really, really kills your confidence. Last year he scored 4 tries. This year he scored 1. He had 11 try assists last year, only had 4 this year. Same amount of offloads. He made a lot less tackles with the amount of less game time he had. And then, but the problem I had with Flanagan this year was just some of his last tackle options. When you're at the 10 meter, the majority of the time you're thinking is to get a repeat set. And you want to try a crossfield kick in the corner, I'm all for that, but sometimes it just didn't work for him. When you know that the crossfield kick isn't working once, maybe twice at most, and you notice that and on each side it ain't going to work for you, try get repeat sets. Try kick a grubber in. Get people chasing up hard to get that repeat set. But put in a good kick. The time they put in a good kick, he got the repeat sets. But because of how clunky our attack was, it did nothing for us. He wasn't good this year. I'll be real. While I back him and I hope he gets the starting 7 next year alongside Burden, I really hope he gets number 7. I think he'll be better for it with a more experienced half next to him, even though he's not that much more experienced, but he's just a lot more calm of a player, Matt Burden. It'll be better for Flanagan in the long run. With a bit more class in the backs and a bit more class in the forwards that we've signed, he should be a better player, and we should start seeing the real reason we signed Cory Flanagan. But this year, he wasn't good. Nick Kotrik, first year at the club, and coming from the Raiders, he had a lot to offer. He was a player where we thought, he would come in and he would change the game. We signed him in to play in the centres, and he didn't have as much of an impact as he did last year at the Canberra Raiders. In the time that he did have, though, with us, before injury interrupted his year, he scored 3 tries, had a try assist, 58 tackle breaks, and 7 line breaks, and averaged 130 metres per game. Look, in terms of averaging 130 metres per game, it's not terrible, but there were times in the game where he just seemed lost. He wasn't his dominant self, and he's a big, powerful boy. Last year, for Canberra, played 23 games compared to this year's 14. And like I said, not winning games absolutely destroys your confidence. Where in a game where he tried to dominate, he came off the wing, he played a lot more centre this year as well. We signed him for the first month, we put him in the centres, and then we realised this guy is not a centre, he's at best a winger. Played the next 10, 11 games there on the wing before where he ended up getting injured in his toe and shoulder, and he sat out for the year. He had a lot better of a year at Raiders. And so with him missing a lot more game time, expecting another player to have another big year, in my eyes, wasn't good. But I'm hoping that he has a better year next year with a full preseason on his belt and a lot more experienced players around him. But for the big signing that we had anticipated for him to be, he just didn't show it this year. So he's hoping for next year he puts in a better performance. Nick Meany. Very consistent year from Nick Meany in a very, very poor side. In the 22 games he played, he switched between fullback and wing a lot and only had to play 1 game at centre due to the shortage of backs we had at the time. In the year he finished the year with 10 tries and 5 goals with 3 try assists, 53 tackle breaks and 9 line breaks. His best game that I thought this year for Nick Meany was where he played against the Tigers in his last game and he just split them open so many times. It was a shame that it was his last game for the club because now we've moved him over to the Melbourne Storm where we're just going to see him become an absolute superstar. But I thought, in my eyes, it was good this year. In the amount of performances, the amount of games he played this year as well. He played 22 games, was one of the most that he played this year. And he got more experience under his belt. And in every sort of area, he lifted in his game, in attack and in defense. In any way he was placed, he played very good football. He was up in a lot of numbers last year. Last year he played 16 games, scored 6 tries. This year he scored 10 tries. He had 3 try assists and 9 line breaks. This year, last year had a try assist and 10 line breaks. Made a lot more tackles this year being at fullback and going through wing and centre. Made a lot more metres as he would have done this year. And he averaged 122 metres, just under the 124 he averaged last year. But in my eyes, with the amount of effort he put in Nick Meany this year, he was good for me. I rate him. And I thought that, he would be so much better for when he goes to Melbourne next year and for what he can do over there. Tui Kotola. a guy that went to my school. I've read about a lot, spoken to him. I've spoken about him a lot on my podcast, and a player that I really enjoyed seeing coming through the ranks and playing first grade. Last year he played one game, but this year he got a lot more opportunities. He finished the year with 2 tries, 3 line breaks, and 17 tackle breaks, with averaging 102 meters per game. Now, he'll be missing a bit of next year. He's had a lot of health issues recently, so been thinking about him a lot recently, and thoughts and prayers go to him. But we're excited to see him playing for the Bulldogs again next year. He gets to have his career developed a little bit more. But I'm sure he'll be better for the experience he had this year. He'll be a lot better for it, and playing and being in the side next year with a lot more class players. I'm sure that he's going to excel, and hopefully he can nab a spot somewhere in first grade once he recovers from all his health issues. But in his first year in proper first grade, I thought it was good. I don't have much against him in that regard. I thought he had a solid year, and I'm looking forward to seeing him build that next year when he gets back to playing rugby league, and hopefully in the years to come as well. And then the last back that we're reviewing is Will Hopawadi. Now, Will Hopawadi has been at the Bulldogs for the last 4 to 5 years. This year, he played every single game for us. He was just consistent at best. Nothing phenomenal. Wasn't someone that really broke the line. Wasn't someone that had a massive impact on games. Last year, he got more involved because he was playing a bit of fullback. But this year, he was just stuck out the centres the whole year. In doing so, he was very quiet. In attack, he didn't do much. He didn't look threatening. There were times where he could have caused a lot more line breaks and had a lot more line break assists to add to his tally and stats, but unfortunately, there were just some plays that he read at the time just didn't really click. In the year that he had, in playing all 24 games, he had only 1 try, had 5 try assists, 32 tackle breaks, and 3 line breaks. And he will continue his career in England after being at the club for the last 6 years. Definitely down from the year that he had previously with us, in only playing half the amount of games he did. He was just a lot... I still think he did okay in my books. I wouldn't say he was bad. Defensively, he was solid, but in attack, he was very quiet. So for me, I'd put him in the average category. So got my good list, got my bad list, got my average list, and Will Hopawadi for this year made my average list. So he will continue his career next year in the Super League, and we wish him all the very best. Now we're getting stuck into the forwards. And Avasi Manifagai came into the club this year, got released from Leeds on a train and trial deal, and he actually worked his backside off and played some very good football for us. And by very good football was just some decent football that we needed, some experienced football we needed from him. And he was a player that I got to see grow this year. He was a player that really worked hard for his teammates, and he worked hard for the club in trying to get the best results for the club as many times as he could. He played with his heart on his sleeve in every single week, and that was something that I got to see from him in just in the little effort areas, and really something that I got to appreciate from him. So he got to make 16 appearances this year, made 12 tackle breaks. He averaged 8 hit-ups per game, a lot of the times coming off the bench. Only had 1 offload, and he made 337 tackles with an efficiency of 94.7% in his tackling. The poor thing, though, is only average 87 meters. But again, all our forwards didn't have much go forward this year, which was a very poor season from them. But glad that he's sticking around for the next 2 years to provide that experience and good depth into our forward stocks. And in my eyes this year, he gets a tick of approval for me. I thought it was very good. Brad Dietz made his debut this year, only played 7 games for the club. In the 7 games he played for the club, he just had little moments where there were some stages where he could have been good, but unfortunately, he tore his hamstring and then didn't get much game time after that. He tackled, the only highlight from him was him tackling at 93.2% tackle efficiency and offered nothing in attacking stats. He won't be at the club next year. We've moved him on for next year. In my books, he was average. Wouldn't be someone that I thought was great. I wouldn't think he was someone that was very poor, but someone that just right there in the middle. Chris Patolo, 20-year-old forward, one of our juniors as well, made his debut. Again, that game against the Seagulls. Only played 6 games this year. In total, made 4 tackle breaks, made 94 tackles at 96% tackle efficiency, and average 86 meters per game. And look, I'm expecting him to play a lot more New South Wales Cup to get more experience under his belt. But from what I saw this year of Chris Patolo, I like him. And I think he can be a lot better player in the years to come. And so he was pretty solid for me, I won't lie. Chris Smith had another year this year where he was hampered by a lot of injuries. He only managed to play 6 games. He scored a try, made an offload and averaged 48 meters. And he won't be part of the squad next year. We've moved him on. It hasn't been signed anywhere else. And in my review, he wasn't good. a bit of a liability this year, Chris Smith, unfortunately, with having so many injuries and suspensions. Didn't really rate him this year, and I thought it was pretty poor. Cory Allen played 20 games in his first year for the club. Had a try, 2 line break assist, and made 12 offloads in total. Averaged a poor showing of 85 meters per game, and an average 30 tackles per game. So while he was busy defensively, offered nothing in attack, and I don't see him playing much first grade next year. Not a good signing in my books, and wasn't good for me this year. And I reckon there would have been a lot better that we could have had playing, but just wasn't meant to be. Riddell didn't really have a good year in my books. Dean Britt only managed 1 game this year. In that game, only ran for 72 meters and made 31 tackles. Pretty poor effort in that 1 game. Dean Britt is a very, very safe player. He's one to really make risks and kind of break the line and do some crazy things like that. Won't be at the club next year. Didn't rate him this year. Didn't think he was good. Dylan Napa. Oh, this one frustrates me the most. Let me get some more liquids into me because I'm ready to go. Dylan Napa. So in the beginning of the year, we had the opportunity to offload him to the Panthers for Matt Burton, and we said no. For some odd reason, we said no. And I don't know why, and I can't think exactly why we would have said no to that. Because Burton would have been so much better for our side than Napa was for our side. Napa was garbage this year. In his final year for the club, he played 18 games. He scored 2 tries, making 9 tackle breaks, 4 offloads, and averaging 93 meters per game. Every year that he played for the Bulldogs, he just somehow got worse. This was the big signing that we were meant to expect from him replacing Dave Clemmer. He was the big signing that we were expecting to come in and make a difference. He's a hard hitter, and he's played 150-odd games and knows what he's doing. But if you look at his statistics across the many years that he played for us, he just got worse. You know, he didn't win many games across the years that he played for us. He dropped down in his tackle breaks from 19 in 2019, 10 in 2020, 9 in 2021. Dropped down in his offloads from 7 to 5 to 4. He averaged, in his tackling, he made 70 less tackles than he did last year, but missed more. In his first year, he made 2,617 running meters. Last year, he made 1,861. This year, he made 1,689 meters. He just declined. In every statistic, he declined. He averaged 93 meters per game this year and averaged 116 last year. Just very poor from Dylan Napa. Not a player I rated from the beginning. And he wasn't good this year for me. He won't be at the club next year. Good riddance. I hope he can pick up his career somewhere else. But just for the club, he was not good at all. Jack Hetherington. Another curious case here for me. I love the aggression that he brings, but unfortunately when you don't control it, you become a liability to your side. And that's exactly what Jack Hetherington became for the Bulldogs this year. Played 17 games, and in that time, he scored a try in his last game. He made 20 tackle breaks and 15 offloads. He averaged 10 hit-ups a game and 100 meters with a tackle efficiency of 90%. I still think he was good this year. I don't think he was terrible. But the only problem is his aggression. If he can control that aggression, he can be a beast of a player. He can be so influential to our side and change the game in so many ways. But unfortunately, he just kept... all his shots were high. Almost every week he got put on report. But he was in all the forwards I've mentioned so far, he's the only one to have averaged over 100 meters and hit the three-digit mark there. I like what I saw from him this year. I like what he brought. I thought he was good this year. Again, in a very poor side, I thought it was good. I'm hoping he's better next year, and I'm hoping he can control that aggression. Jackson Tarpon made his debut for the club this year, playing 7 games at hooker and 1 at second row. He's naturally a second rower. He scored a try, made a line break with a tackle efficiency of 97%. And he's a player, a junior, who I'm really looking forward to seeing grow in 2022. And I like Jackson Tarpon, and I rate him really high. And so I'm very glad to have seen him come out and debut and play some very good football for us. So yeah, in my eyes, he was good this year, and I reviewed him as playing pretty well. James Romanos didn't get any game time this year and won't be at the club next year. Jeremy Marshall-King had a broken foot during the year and left towards the end of the season for family reasons, so a very interrupted year. Played 9 games, scoring a try, made a line break assist and 6 offloads, and tackled at 95% efficiency. This in the 3-4 years that he's played throughout the Tigers in that 1 game and the 3 years in the Bulldogs, this was the year that he played the least amount of games. So he'll be looking for a lot more game time next year and hoping for an injury-free season. And I thought for the times he played for us, he was good. He was solid. He was pretty good for us and not someone I could really complain about. Joe Simpson. Injuries plagued him last year. When we signed him from Melbourne, he was a hot product. He was phenomenal. And he was someone I was really excited to see grow. Played 11 games this year, just became a fringe first grader. Instead of being that starting second row that we wanted him to be, he became a fringe player. He averaged 31 meters and made 2 offloads while tackling at 91% efficiency. Unfortunately, he didn't have a great year, and he's been now pushed back in terms of the depth, and I don't see him being at the club beyond next year. So I didn't really rate him playing that good, that decent amount of football this year. Josh Jackson, our influential leader, very solid defender, and he tried to lead by example week in and week out. He's been in the club for 9 years now, going on to his 10th year next year. He's the captain of the club, the heart and soul of the team, and he put up some pretty impressive numbers this year. In the games, the amount he played 17 games this year. In those 17 games, he made 786 tackles at 96% efficiency, had 6 offloads and 3 line break assists, and averaged 113 meters. But with a lot of carrying of the team this year, I'm expecting him to have a better year next year with more experience around him. And in my eyes, he was good. Looking at the amount of games he played 3 less games than last year. Didn't score a try, unfortunately. Not as threatening. He made 80 more tackles than he did last year, and he missed a lot less than he did as well. So it was really good to see. His numbers dropped only by a fraction in his running meters. Total of 1935 made this year. Last year made 1941, but his average was 113 meters per game. So which was really good to see from Jacko, just doing nothing more than his job and just playing consistent football. And I'm looking forward to him getting more wins next year. He's been the hardest of our club for many years, and I'm hoping there's a bit more success come our way. Luke Thompson, our best forward by far. And I said to a lot of people last year that he just needs a lot more experience and a lot more time and a full preseason to really show what he's capable of doing for our club. And he did just that. His suspensions killed him for missing about 5 games, but he was fantastic for us. Compared to last year, he was so much better this year. He scored 3 tries, averaged 15 hit-ups. He made 15 hit-ups at an average of 142 meters per game and 13 offloads. And he made 518 tackles and defended and with an efficiency of 95%. Big tick of approval for Luke Thompson. I'm excited to see where his best position is. I think it could be at lock. Move Jacko back into second row with Raymond Fatale and Mariner. Moving into a bit of talk for next year. But I loved what he brought in at prop and at lock. And I love the type of player he is, and I'm hoping for more of that from him next year. Matt Dewey played 13 games this year, which ended his last game, unfortunately, with an ACL injury. He's a player that I've got really, really good hopes for, and hopefully that he overcomes his ACL injury and has a more impactful year. The only concern I have for him is he cops a lot of concussions. He's had a lot of concussions this year and last year, so that's a bit of a concern as well. But this year he scored a try, made a line break assist and 2 offloads. But most of his stats came from defending and was tackling at an efficiency of 88%. And I thought he had a pretty solid hit out this year, Matt Dewey, building on to what he did last year. Off for Higgy Ogden, it was a very quiet year from him. Didn't make much of an impact. Played 12 games this year, broke 9 tackles, made 2 offloads and averaged 85 meters. Didn't really impress me. It was more of a liability, and very happy to see that he's not going to be out of club next year. And he wasn't good for us at all. Raymond Fatale Mariner only played 2 games for us this year before going down with a serious injury both off the bench. Hopefully he gets a bit more game time next year. There's a chance. They're saying he came out today with an interview saying he's ready to go for preseason, but I'm hoping he gets a full preseason under his belt. We get to see more of the Raymond Fatale Mariner we got to see in 2020, and hopefully he gets to play a bigger part in season 2022. Raymond Fatale played 14 games this year, dropped at different stages throughout the year before leaving after round 20 back to Sydney due to family reasons. He scored 2 tries, made 17 tackle breaks, 9 offloads, and averaged 85 meters. Moving to the Roosters in 2022, had a lot of ball handling issues that was really frustrating from him as well. So I put him in my average category. I didn't think he was good, but I don't think he was terrible. I just put him right in that middle category there. I thought it was pretty average. But now he's signed a 2-year deal with the Roosters where I'm just going to watch him excel and not going to be happy about it. And then the last player that we're covering, Sironi Katawa, easily and by far, as not trying to be as mean here, but he was probably one of the worst players to lace up a pair of boots for our club. He was just a liability. He's slow at dummy half. He isn't creative, wasn't dangerous whatsoever. Anytime he got a starting gig or came off the bench, my blood boiled inside because he offered nothing for us. Played 18 games this year. We had 3 try assists, a line break assist, and made 7 offloads while making 467 tackles at 92% efficiency. Glad he won't be at the club next year. Hopefully he gets a contract elsewhere. But it just such a liability for us. Someone who was so slow and not someone I was really impressed with. And glad that he won't be with us next year. And in my books was not good this year. Now, those are the players that we've capped off. We've capped on every single player that has played for the club this year. Now, the 2021 award winners from the players I've just mentioned, the Community Service Peter Warren Medal went to Raymond Fatale Mariner for all the work he's done in the community. The Rookie of the Year went to Bailey Beyondioto, bursting onto the scene and playing some good football, bringing something different out of dummy half. The Coaches Award went to Jake Averillo for putting out a pretty consistent year. And the Dr. George Proponent's Player of the Year goes to the main man in Josh Jackson. The expectations for 2022, to be quite honest, there's a lot. We're not expected to finish anywhere near the bottom. I'm placing 9 to 12, which I'll get into a bit more detail, but with a lot more players coming through and a lot more experienced in key positions that are going to be joining us, with players coming back from injuries, I'm expecting a better year from the Bulldogs. I don't think we'll make the finals, but we'll get into more of that once we go through our season previews for 2022. Guys, thank you so much for joining us on League Chat with the Stat. Thank you. Hope you guys enjoyed what I've put together for you guys. Expect a detailed analysis like this every single week of every single club. This was obviously for a club like the Bulldogs, was a very poor showing and a very poor year. But look, I'm genuinely hoping that there is a lot more better reviews coming up. Only after 4 weeks, we'll probably see a lot better reviews coming in. Considering the next few weeks, we're going to be doing the Cowboys, the Broncos, and the Tigers and the Raiders. But guys, I hope you enjoy what I've provided for you guys. Make sure to like our page on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Instagram. Like I've mentioned, all my news is going onto those platforms for now, and we won't be bringing back our new segment till next year. Still purchase one of our hats for $25 a pop. Might even do a summer sale for $20. So let's get these hats and let's get them out of here and let's start bringing in new merch. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. Hope you guys enjoyed the content. Let me know if you liked it, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. Give me a thumbs up, thumbs down. Message me in private. Give me a call if you have my number. Email me, leaguechatwiththestat@gmail.com. Let us know what you thought. But I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you tuning in. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the week. And hopefully you guys are excited for my next review where we discuss the North Queensland Cowboys. Thank you so much for your time, guys. You guys take it easy and have a good one. See you later.